Welcome to ACC Nation. That's Will Ogenin. I'm Jim Quist. This is the weekend wrap. A lot of football action to talk about, Will. I mean, a lot. And here's the one thing I took away from this weekend. There's a lot of unhappy fans out there, man. I mean, very, very unhappy. Therefore, I'm putting the Q hot seat label on a couple of coaches, and we'll see whether or not it's really hot or if it's just sort of dun dun dun. Yeah. All right, let's start with our first game on Friday. Was UCF at Louisville, and I think most people in our group were thinking, okay, this is a UCF game because Louisville's performances up to that point, nothing to write home about. And Coach Satterfield was catching some heat, man. He was feeling some warmth on his derriere, and this was an important game for Louisville, not only for the coach but also for the team to get their collective, together.
It rhymes with bit.
That too, yes.
Well, yeah. Well, look at the sample size of what we've seen so far. I mean, Ole Miss obliterated them, but I think we've seen through a few games, Ole Miss has a legitimately good offense. It might have one of the better ones out there in all of college football. So, okay, no shame in that. Okay, they beat up on an FCS school, whatever. But this was as you like to say, a Missouri game. A show me something.
That's right.
They showed a little something. I mean, mostly that when they're not shooting themselves in the foot, they have a really good offense. But that's been its bugaboo for the last year and change. And they actually played a game where that didn't really, cause any issues. Yeah, they turned the ball over once, but what happened? A couple plays later, we had the game deciding pick six. But up until that point, it was, it looked like UCF was going to win.
Yep. Sure did.
Sure did. I mean, we were talking about it during the game Friday night, and we were just kind of waiting for UCF to pull away, and they did at points, but Louisville always had a response. And, a good game from Malik Cunningham all around, had over 360 yards of offense between his passing and running ability, accounted for 3 touchdowns. Still tons of questions about this defense, though. I mean, like I said, UCF's still a good team, gave up 35 points and over 400 yards of offense, over 200 yards on the ground. So that is a concern. But again, that was a huge win for Louisville, a huge win for Scott Satterfield to keep everybody just simmer down just a little bit.
Just a little.
And now we can start getting into league play with them and seeing what they're actually made of.
All right, Coach Sat, I've got a recommendation for you. Tweak that defense up a little bit. I know you've been trying. Here's the other thing. Stay the hell away from talking with any other teams.
Well, the first part, the defense, we're going to be saying that a lot today.
Oh, yes, we are, in more ways than we should be. Our next game, Western Michigan and Pitt. Now, here's somebody whose seat I think ought to be at the very least warm, because quite frankly, after all these years and all this roller coaster up and down nonsense, one of two things. And I'm just going to get this beef right out front so everybody knows where I stand on this.
Beef.
That's right. Tasty, juicy beef, marinated. All right, look. Pat Narduzzi's been there long enough. This team has been a roller coaster year in, year out. You never know what the hell you're going to get out of these guys. And it's absolutely maddening. As a fan, I would not be not be pleased at all. Now, here's the thing. When you call for people to be fired, or they ought to be on the hot seat or whatever, you get this crowd that says, hey, but yeah, they're people too. And, they got families, and and they got houses and mortgages and car payments to, excuse me, but everybody else in the world does too. And if you want to be in a business where you step out in front of the public and you're responsible to the public in this fashion, guess what? If you can't take the damned heat, get out of the kitchen. So I'm saying Narduzzi's butt ought to be on at least a warm seat. Now, how warm? I think I'll leave that up to Heather and her office, and the fans. I'm sure probably are throwing a lot more heat on him than maybe he needs, but he needs to have I used to work with a guy who used to talk about a red hot poker or a cattle prod. One of the two needs to be implemented here. Something needs to change at Pitt. All right. Western Michigan, 44, Pitt, 41.
I would have simulated the hot seat thing, but unfortunately my lighter is across the room, so I can't quite do that again this week.
Bummer.
Oh, but just go back to the video from 2 weeks ago and you'll get the bit. But like anybody who's watched Pitt these last 2 weeks, like, knows they should have lost to Tennessee last week if Joe Milton could actually throw accurately. I mean, those guys were getting wide open and he was overthrowing them by 10 yards. Hit him in stride, and that's 6. They're probably losing by 2 scores. This one finally came to bite him in the ass. I mean, it's Western Michigan. How do you let Western Michigan put up over 500 yards of offense against you? And I even said this in the preseason. They're not going to be as good on defense this year because it's impossible to just lose all the talent they did to the NFL and just think you're automatically going to replace it right away. This team, outside of Kenny Pickett, this entire team is junk. Like, what is there? What is there? I mean, Pitt had 490 yards of offense. Kenny Pickett accounted for, let's do some quick math here, 431 yards of that. Yeah, and you have to have talent around you to help you. And yeah, I know, like 2019 Virginia was an example of a team that basically did it all on one player, but they were good. Like, they had a good defense. They had other talent to help. They got nothing. I mean, this is a team that once again averaged 3 yards a carry, and Kitty, and no consistent running back help. I mean, the leading running back had 11 carries, 38 yards. That's 3.5 yards a carry against a MAC school.
Let that sink in for a second. I want you to pause for a moment. Let people absorb that. There you go.
All right. Thank you.
That's, yeah. We say it year in and year out. It's, I'm sorry.
Like, we go through this every year. Oh, Pitt's going to be really good. What have they shown you offensively since James Conner left that leads you to believe that they're going to be any good on offense?
Wah, wah. That.
And now you've got a bad defense, and yeah, this team is probably no better than 4th, maybe 3rd in the Coastal.
Well, here's the deal. We're gonna not next week, but our schedule of guests this coming week. And by the way, for those of you who are listening and you notice there's something slightly different, we're doing a weekend wrap of football games, and then we'll have our guest midweek to add to things. The guest this week is Sam Newman of the Clemson Insider. You got a lot to answer for, Lucy, about what's going on down there with Dabo. It's not Sam's problem, but he's going to give us some ideas as to what's going on. Also, the week after that, speaking of Pitt, we've got the editor of Cardiac Hill, Mike Wilson's joining us again. He's probably going to regret coming back on because he's probably shaking his head. I know Mike well enough to notice that he's shaking his head right now going, what is going on here? So we're going to find out with Mike Wilson of Cardiac Hill. That's in 2 weeks, 2 interviews from now. So we got a lot of interesting people coming to join us. Let's move on from that game because this is a weekend wrap, and we're going to make it short and sweet. Phil Jerkovic is out for the season. Grosel is a solid backup, not a bad player. I mean, he's shown that he's more than capable. He's not a Phil, but he's, okay. But Boston College, they have really not played anybody so far, and all of this bragging and optimism that we've had about Boston College, we've gotten to this point now. It's like, okay, show me. Well, guess what? That's coming up. Boston College 28, Temple 3. Any thoughts about this game, what you saw?
I have legit concerns about Boston College on offense now that Jerkovic is out for the season. I know people are I know there's some Boston College faithful who think Grosel will be just fine, but yeah, I've seen more games of yesterday than I have, decent games. And we look at, he's done well this year, but this is also Colgate, UMass, and Temple, FCS, an FCS team, and 2 bottom barrel FBS teams. He obviously had the career day against Virginia, but that was against like four string DBs, and he still threw 3 picks. And then you see the sample size as a freshman where he was a sub 50% completion guy. I have legitimate concerns about not only what he can do on a consistent basis, but Temple is not very good, and Boston College got all of 221 yards of offense against them. I mean, good defensive effort because they held Temple to 2 yards per carry. And, I've been saying that I think this defense is going to get a lot better, but I think it's clear the offense is nowhere near as explosive as it should be under Dennis Grosel. And they have their biggest test of the season coming up on Saturday against Missouri, and
doesn't get any easier after that either.
Not sure about them in this game. I have not sent in my picks yet, but I'm stewing on them. But unless something changes, I'm probably taking Mizzou in that one.
Interesting. Let me just say right up front, here is a coach I believe that ought to be let go at the end of the season. And I don't care what the outcome of this game was at all.
And before you say it, you're really narrowing it down there, Jim.
Yeah, after this week, yeah. I believe that this coach, here's one of 2 things you can do, guys, at this program. You can either revert to FCS or you can let go of this coach and actually get somebody in who's going to build a program. It is a failed experiment. It did not work. Dino Babers needs to head down the road. Syracuse 62, Albany 24.
Syracuse needs to revert to FCS, but then puts up 62 points. I mean, I get your point.
Yeah, but look at who they played.
Yeah, I know. It's Albany. It's Albany, the Great Danes. Yeah, I get it.
It'd be like you and I together as a team. We're the only 2 and playing Syracuse, and they put 62 up on us. Mm-hmm. That's how impressive this is.
Yeah, I mean, no, I get it. 623 yards of offense against Albany. Yeah, that's I always refer to some of these games as stat patter games. This was definitely one of those, and on both sides of the ball. I mean, you held Albany to 135 total yards, but 16 penalties, 163 yards. They had more yards and penalties than Albany had total yards, and they still won 62-24. Like I said, the only reason you're watching Syracuse is Sean Tucker. I mean, the guy had 100 yards receiving and rushing, over 250 yards in total. And he's, like I said, he's a really good player. And the only reason you really want to watch Syracuse football.
Then, pretty confident that Schmidt's going to be a NFL player as well. So, exciting.
Oh, yeah. Huh?
All right, let's talk about another hot seat. And this is the guy that Dennis Dodd, if I'm not mistaken, of CBS said was definitely on the hot seat at the beginning of the season. If he's not still, I don't know how he's not. If I were him, I would be putting my house on the market and looking for another job. West Virginia 27, Virginia Tech 21. If you don't think that was the final nail in this dude's coffin, but he's got a family and he's got a house. He stepped into the arena. He is a bullfighter. And don't tell me that bullfighters don't realize they could get gored. Well, guess what? Bull meet Fuente.
You're coming out swinging this morning, Jim.
I'm hot after watching this weekend. Oh, angry man. Shouting at clouds.
Old man yells at cloud.
That's me.
Man, you're, like I say, you're a feisty one this morning. You must have had extra coffee this morning or something. But
just working on my second one, believe it or not.
Same here. Got my coffee sitting right here with my dogs and coffee mug that I actually got my wife as a Valentine's Day present because, you know, we love dogs and coffee here.
And you absconded with it already, haven't you?
Uh-huh. Well, she actually gave it to me to use this morning. So
sure she did.
Okay, on to the Virginia Tech West Virginia game. I mean, really the story of this game was the first half. West Virginia came out 24-7 at halftime. They ran the ball consistently. Virginia Tech really had no answer for their running game. But then the second half, Tech, played much better in the second half. I mean, obviously cut it to 6.
You say.
And they did. I mean, defensively, they did play a little bit better, but I think a lot of Tech fans are still fuming over the play selection at the end of the game from the 4-yard line, 1st and goal from the 4, and couldn't even get in. And I think that's been a lot of the issue with Virginia Tech is fans are not, the majority of the fans that I've spoken to or seen on Twitter are not big fans of this offensive coordinator who I get it. I mean, it looks like he's not putting the team in position to succeed. And I do like the way Braxton Burmeister's played this season. He's not like a super special guy, but he's a really solid quarterback. I mean, 2 for 2 touchdowns here, 223 yards. Yeah. He's certainly not going to go down on the pantheon of great Virginia Tech quarterbacks like Michael Vick or Tyrod Taylor by any means, but he's a solid college quarterback. And I would say he's been up and down at times, but he's really going back to the latter part of last season. He's been playing consistently well. It's just this year he's not getting a whole lot of help from the run game, and I think that has been a bit of a problem at times.
Yeah, big problem. He's not getting a whole heck of a lot of help from his offensive coordinator, who is obviously doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
And I don't know either.
I just it eludes me. And people will say, hey, no, I have not coached at that level. I've coached at levels leading up to, but not at that level. So, okay. Yeah. I've never been in that position, but and I also understand that over years, you pick up a lot of knowledge and you see the game from a different perspective, and you sort of absorb things, and you're playing a mental game of chess sometimes with your opponent. Some people take longer to get there. Some people never get there. I don't know which applies here, but I just feel like this is the wrong position for this individual to be in, or they need some help. And, a good manager, and that would be Justin Fuente, would say, look, would sit down with the offensive coordinator and say, I'm seeing some things here that bother me, and I know that it's not delivering where it should. Now, let's figure out what kind of tools we need to give you to make that happen. Good management is about supporting your employees and giving them the tools to make things happen. Now, you either do that or you take the blame and the flame as well. For me, I think that there needs to be something there, some help. And if your ego is not so far blown out of proportion that if you can't deal with somebody coming in and saying, look, think about this. How about this? How about that? Have you thought about this? What can we do to make this better? How can you go about doing it? All that needs to be done. It needs to be done in a serious fashion. You either do that, or the entire coaching staff is sitting there looking at an AD who's going, I'm answerable to people. And guess what? You're out the door. So that's what's coming. Be good managers and help out the coaches, help the players. And my God, you won't hear from the fans anymore.
Let me throw in this one more stat before we move on. I did see this through our friend Matthew that since 2018, Justin Fuente is 18-19 against FBS schools.
So anyway, yeah. I mean, see, these are the things that and people pay attention. People pay attention. It's not like you're cruising through and if you need help, ask for it. Don't be so proud that you think that you know everything. Ask for help, get the help, make a difference. That's what good coaches do. Next game. Oh my gosh. The fans are saying hot seat, hot seat, hot seat. Let me have the head of Manny Diaz on a plate. And not yet. I'd say it's a warmer seat because of this game, but I don't think it's a hot seat. I still say that Manny Diaz needs a little more time to build a program here. And quit deluding yourselves, Miami fans. The U is not back. You got a ways to go. Michigan State 38, Miami 17. Forget about seeing the top 25 for the rest of the year.
I muted myself and completely forgot to unmute myself.
I thought maybe that you had something rude, crude, and socially unacceptable to say, but
oh yeah, but we are a family friendly show. I was doing an impression of Miami fans during that game.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, I'm keyed in now. Very good. Nice recovery.
See, I know what I'm doing here. I can improvise sometimes, but yeah, I know I'm one of those people who always likes to rip on Miami when they lose because I'm just tired of hearing them being back for like the 15th year in a row. And I'll be honest with you, like they aren't very good. But at the same time, all these teams they've played, they good. I mean, I think we're gonna find out App State's gonna be probably the best team in the Sun Belt right now. Remember, this is the same Sun Belt that has Coastal Carolina in it, who is kind of a darling.
Mm-hmm.
And I even said this at halftime of the game that I think we're finding out that Sparty's sneaky good with a good run game. And you remember it. Remember, if you watch the game, you remember Kenneth Walker III at Wake Forest. From previous seasons. He's now at Michigan State, just absolutely torched them for 172 yards of rushing, averaging over 6 yards per carry. And it wasn't like he was getting them like all in one play. He was consistently getting those, 6-7 yard runs against that Miami front. It's not good. And I'll be honest, I'll level with y'all. I'm really concerned about De'Aaron King. He's been beat up. He's 9 months removed from a torn ACL. He's been, like I said, he's been beaten up, banged up already. And I'm legitimately concerned about his health with the way this team is going right now. And yeah, he threw for 388 yards, 2 touchdowns, but threw 2 picks. But he did have to. He got hurt at one point during the game. I think hurt his shoulder on a run that, but it ended up being 4th down, so he didn't have to miss a play. And Miami ultimately punted, but this O line, like a lot of people thought this O line would be better this year. They are still not very good. They still can't run the ball. I mean, their top running back ran for 44 yards. They ran as a team for 52, averaging 2 yards per carry. That's not going to cut it. There's a lot of issues with this team right now. The only thing we can say is Charleston Rambo, the kid who came over from Oklahoma, looks really good. 12 catches, 156 yards, and 2 touchdowns in this game. But he was also going up against a freshman corner, so he definitely torched him. But it's a tough loss for the ACC yet again. And I'm, like I said, there's a lot of questions and concerns with that team. So I hope Miami fans are a little more realistic with their expectations now. You heard that?
That was resounding. Here's another slightly delusional fan base who's living in the past. And this team is a blink of an eye away from disaster. They have escaped so far. Notre Dame 27, Purdue 13. Let me tell you something. The Irish are about to hit the brick wall at 70 miles an hour, and they're not wearing a helmet. And this is going to be an ugly realization that this team ain't all that this season.
For some reason, I had the thought of the crash test dummies in my head when you were talking about that crashing without a helmet.
I just put Brian Kelly's face on that.
You can learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
That's right.
There's a segment of our listenership who has no idea what you're talking about.
No.
Google crash test dummies PSA and you'll on YouTube and
you'll watch it over and over.
Yeah, you'll get what we're talking about. But you're right, Jim. Notre Dame just not what we thought they were. I mean, they got outgained by a pretty bad Purdue team. But I mean, it was only by 5 yards, but they still outgained them because they gave up 291 yards passing through the air, obviously. But Jack Cohn looked bad yesterday. He completed less than 50% of his passes. The only thing you're hanging your hat on is Kyron Williams looked more like the guy last year, 91 yards on 12 carries, a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Also had 2 catches, 47 yards and a touchdown. And that's who they're going to have to ride. And when you talked about hitting the wall at 70 miles an hour without a helmet on, that's I know you're referring to their upcoming opponent.
Yeah, well, a couple of them actually, Wisconsin and Cincinnati. And if Wisconsin doesn't do the trick, I know Cincinnati will. Notre Dame is not a good team. They're not playoff contenders at all. Mm-mm. Forget about it.
It's a harsh reality right now. But.
And yeah, I mean, and it sucks. So far, it's just a down year for the ACC 14+1 that we have. It's the way it is.
Yeah, they're 3-0, but look at the competition. Look how they've played against that competition, and we're now realizing. And I know we're about to get to them here in just a minute, but yeah, that game, that first game of the season, yeah, doesn't mean as much. Still one of the best games of the year, though.
Yeah, it was very good. I still will take that story over Rudy any day.
Well, he was offside, so
I just grind that one in there a little bit. Wake Forest 35, Florida State 14. Fans pondering the hot seat for Mike Norvell. Zip it. You've come a long way. There are bright spots.
That work.
Clausen and company, Never failed to impress. And nobody ever talks about Wake Forest. Wake Forest has got a horrible PR machine going on down there. Come on, Wake Forest. What the hey? You got a couple of great journalists down there. We have Connor O'Neill, Les Johns coming on to talk about stuff. They do a great job of getting the word out, but go anywhere else in the United States and they go, what awake? What, who in a forest, trees? Who? You got to do better. You got some great sports programs there. It's a great school. It's a great environment. But who's doing the PR for you clowns? Come on. All right, big win for Wake Forest. Florida State.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, I remember seeing it yesterday on Twitter. Everyone on game day picked Florida State to win this game. And I'm like, what have you seen in the first two games from Florida State that leads you to believe they're going to beat Wake Forest? And yeah, Wake Forest, they basically were very businesslike in their two games against, in the Norfolk City Invitational against ODU and Norfolk State. But they didn't need to show much in those games because those two teams were not on their level, so there was no need to really show much. And they finally did yesterday, and boy did they ever. I mean, it's a really sad story because Dave Clawson is probably the most underrated coach in America. All he does is just string together wins on a consistent basis. And yes, I had to use string as a prop here because, but that first year where they ran for a couple of yards as a team, that was just, trying to mold what he had. And this team is consistently good on offense. And they pushed tempo. They ran something like 89 plays against Florida State. They averaged, just 5.4 yards per play, which isn't bad. I mean, it's Florida State's was better, but still Florida State turnovers. That was their big issue yesterday. They turned it over, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 times. My math tells me that if you turn the ball over 6 times, you're not going to win games very often, if at all. No. Now let me go back to Wake Forest for a second. Sam Hartman, a very solid game, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns. Wake ran the ball 58 times in this game, averaged about 4 yards per carry. Christian Beal Smith, 95 yards, averaged 5 yards a carry. And I'm looking at this, and we're going to get to this a little later, but Wake Forest plays Virginia on Friday night.
Ooh.
Take the over, folks.
The American Society of Theoretical Scientists endorses your string theory. Just saying. Hey, that group on ESPN that all went with Florida State, it must have been good. That's all I could say.
It was one of they must have been paid or something.
That was whack.
I heartily endorse this team.
Yeah. Give me the money bags. All right. Oh boy, here we go. Let me ask you, GT fans, are you happy yet? Oh, not a win? Excuse me. But Clemson 14, Georgia Tech 8. And Clemson was doing everything they could there at the very last few seconds to give this game to the Yellow Jackets, or at least to go into overtime. There's plenty of stuff I want to say about Clemson. Georgia Tech, GT fans ought to be happy. This is a significant change from last year when they got their butts just stomped into the ground.
Well, to be honest with you, this game says way more about Clemson than it does Georgia Tech to me. I mean, when you're looking at how things have played out, like this season, obviously that loss to Northern Illinois is very bad. I mean, I think they were, what did I say? They were like 19-point favorites in that game.
Yeah.
Did you see what Northern Illinois did yesterday?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. So for those of you that didn't, they lost 63-10 to Michigan. So yeah, that's not good. The positives on this game for the Georgia Tech side, they did outgain Clemson. They put only 309 yards of offense up, but Jordan Yates looked decent in this game. Stats don't pop out 20 of 33, 203 yards. It just looks like, solid work, just, not doing a whole lot. They didn't turn the ball over, did what they usually do. But like I said, the one thing I do know about Clemson is their defense is elite.
It's rocking.
It's the only reason they won this game. Let's be honest. I mean, they held Georgia Tech to 2.7 yards per carry in this game. And looks like they finally started to get something going in the running game. I mean, Will Shipley is probably going to be the starting running back. I know he got hurt towards the end of the game. I don't know. I did not see how serious it was. I was getting ready I was watching the Virginia game at the time and did not catch.
Yeah.
Or I was also watching Northwestern Duke. Actually, I think that was going on. No. The Virginia UNC game was going on, so I didn't catch the end of, or catch exactly what the deal was, how serious it was. But yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, Georgia Tech could have won this game. They had, what was it, like 4th and goal with a shot to at least tie the game if they scored and got the 2-point conversion, and they didn't convert. Then Clemson fumbles in the end zone, and then they fall on it for safety. And then Georgia Tech got the ball with a chance to win, but obviously the Clemson defense kind of shut them down, and that proved to be the difference in the game. But yeah, and I'm excited we're going to have Sam Newman on this week because, like you said, we have a lot of questions, and we sure know he has a lot of answers.
Here's something that Mark Richt said on the ACC network yesterday, and I think it was spot on. Talking about Clemson, this isn't a team that he sees in the playoffs. I wholeheartedly agree.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson will not see the playoffs this year. Unless
this season goes just completely weird, and it almost did yesterday because Alabama almost lost, but it just feels like Clemson is ripe for the picking right now, and maybe it happens this week. They have NC State on the road. We know they're a good team, but we know NC State's a talented team, but they don't exactly have a big game coach. So, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
The thing here's what might even that out. You say that they don't have a big game coach, which I would agree. When you go up against Dabo, it's, you're dealing with somebody who's into strategery. But watching Dabo on the sidelines against Georgia Tech, it was pretty obvious he was at his rope's end. You could tell he just didn't have any answers, and that's a frustrating place to be as a coach who's used to winning. It's frustrating for the kids when you see your coach grasping for straws, and any observant fans would see that and go, "Oh my!" So,
oh my,
do our George Takei imitation.
Oh, yes. Oh my.
All right. Here's a I don't care if you won, you still need a new direction. Get a new coach at the end of the season, for gosh sakes. Duke 30, Northwestern 23. Duke came out of nowhere, ran up some points, and then proceeded to almost give the game away.
What if I told you Duke was up 30-7 at halftime?
Uh-huh.
There's more, Duke was up 30-7 at halftime against an FBS school, a Power 5 school. and then like you said, nearly gave it away. I mean, they were it felt like they were a total different team in the second half. I mean, they outscored, or Northwestern outscored them 16-0 in the second half, and just outgained them by almost 60 yards. It was, but they say everything was all about the first half in this game. That was the big difference. I mean, Duke in the first half had 420 yards of offense, ran for 163 yards, passed for 257 just in the first half alone. But I say they clamped down. The Northwestern defense clamped down in the second half. Duke did turn the ball over a total of 3 times, but Northwestern turned it over 5 times. So, hey, Duke's +2 in the turnover margin on that because of it. But this is again, like 10 penalties by Duke, 104 yards. That's not good. I don't know, Mateo Durant, yeah, he ran for 100 yards, 102 yards to be specific, but I know he fumbled at least once, if not twice. And that's uncharacteristic of him because he's a very steady ball handler. Big game for Gunnar Holberg, 314 yards passing. That was a good effort by him. But like you said, it's a nice win for Duke. One many probably didn't expect, but yeah, they almost tried to hand that one back.
All right, this next game is kind of the of the week. It's sort of the meh game. Not to downplay, and because NC State fans always feel like they're getting abused left and right, and sometimes you are, just because we know that you like to play the victim, so we victimize you. NC State over Furman, 45-7. Meh. Who cares? NC State. All right, you got to win. Furman, whatever.
Sure, man. Yeah.
I mean, if you got something to say here, feel free, because I'd rather spend time on talking about a game. So,
all that you needed to know is North Carolina State outgained Furman 505 to 196. And how I always refer to some of these games as stat pattern games. I mentioned it a little bit ago when we were talking about Syracuse. This is exactly what that was, a stat pattern game. A nice effort. Devin Leary, 259, 3 scores. Bam Knight at 100 yards rushing, averaged 9.5 yards per carry. So it's not like they were ever threatened in this game. I think, they led 10-0 at the end of the first quarter, 38-0 at halftime. So, just basically just messed around in the second half, played some backups, got them some valuable reps that they're going to need, going forward. And they're just looking ahead to a big game next week.
Yep. Okay. I'm not dissing on you, Furman. I know you need to pick up some money to supplement your program, and it's a cool thing. You're playing teams that are geographically close and all that. And that's a good thing. So anyway. All right. It was fun watching 2 gunslingers, but egads, the defenses are an abomination. And so help me. If I catch one single person talking about either of these coaches being on the hot seat for the performances that they had in this game, I'm coming at you, okay, with a butter knife. And it's going to have butter on it. And what I do with that butter, you may not like. North Carolina 59, Virginia 39. So, it was, there were aspects of this game that I thoroughly enjoyed watching, but man, first of all, the Virginia defense, do they have a defensive line? And do they have linebackers? Because it seemed like all of their secondary, their backs, their safeties and stuff were their cornerbacks and stuff were doing all the tackling or attempting to on some of these runs and stuff. When it came to North Carolina, man, their defensive line was getting absolutely no penetration. Well, I can't say no, but Brennan Armstrong had a week in the pocket every time he got the ball. And it was like, and then he was just nailing it left and right. So both of these teams need to do some heavy lifting on their defense.
I think that is more true with Virginia than it is North Carolina. I mean,
I agree.
The reality is, I'm just going to start on the defensive side for North Carolina. I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that Brennan Armstrong is the best quarterback in the ACC at this point. I mean, when you look at what he's done, I mean, I'm pretty certain I saw the stat a moment ago, and while we're here, I'm going to confirm it. But Brennan Armstrong leads the nation in yards per game right now at 432, and he's completing almost 72% of his passes. I mean, he set a school record 554 yards passing in a losing effort. Wah, wah. Like, he was just so good last night. And I mean, he made like one mistake all night, and it was an interception. But he was just so good last night, and I think that's something that we're going to see, especially with that offensive line being so good at protecting him. I mean, North Carolina I think they sacked him. They did sack him like 3 times, I believe. Yeah, 3 sacks. But as a whole, 3 sacks and 54 dropbacks, or 57 dropbacks technically. I'll take my chances with that. Questions about the running game. A lot. I know Wayne Talapapa left the game with a concussion. Mike Hollins got the bulk of the work. You know, he looked decent. Obviously, they're not gonna run the ball much right now just because Armstrong is so good passing. But the defensive effort, I have never seen a team so feeble at stopping the run before, and probably in my life. My biggest concern, about Virginia, a lot of people had concerns about Virginia's defense this year. Secondary obviously got torched, but I think some of that is because Josh Downs is a freaking stud, and people just haven't picked up on that yet. And there's just no talent not much talent in the secondary, and there's certainly not much talent on the defensive line. I mean, these are just guys, basically. I have not seen anyone really stand out that much. I mean, there's experience there, but there's not that one guy that is a disruptor. I mean, all the best defenders are linebackers, and I think sometimes it's a lot to ask for linebackers to be making the kind of plays they're being asked to, and this is a rude wake-up call for the Virginia defensive staff, because what North Carolina did in the second half is, Sam Howell was torching them in the first half, but they changed up their game plan in the second half when they realized that there was no way Virginia was stopping the run. Let me just take a moment to go through this. Just second half, North Carolina ran 39 plays. They ran the ball 30 times for 246 yards in the second half. That's 8 yards a carry, folks. Pathetic tackling. It looked like Sam Howell was doing some QB keepers where he barely tried and was getting 8-9 yards a pop. It's sad. That is a real sad effort. And I hope that whole defensive staff is sick of it. Here's the sad thing. It's become a trend. I know. Yeah. It's the defensive line is not very good now. Yeah. I know they lost Juwan Briggs, the transfer last season. It just, from where I sit, it looked like he was just homesick. He would have made a bit of a difference. But he's not here, and he can't do anything about it. He's got a bunch of dudes who fill gaps. There's no special player on that defensive line or in the secondary. I mean, like I said, they play Wake Forest on Friday night. This is a team that like I said, they run a lot of tempo. They run up tempo a lot. They have a good running game. Sam Hartman's a good passer. And what did you see last night that leads you to believe that Virginia is going to stop this Wake Forest offense on a short week? There's nothing there. This is why I said take the over. whenever Vegas releases the point totals, take the over no matter what it is.
We'll soon see. Yeah, frustrating. As I mentioned earlier, and Will and I have been talking about, the interview this week is with Sam Newman of the Clemson Insider, who's going to do his best to explain away a horrible Tigers offense. In the week following, it's Mike Wilson of Cardiac Hill. We'll get a better feel for the pit roller coaster with Mike. Coming up this week in football, we have got so many games to go through here real quickly. Missouri is at Boston College, as Will is pointing out. Maybe it's time to start seriously considering show me is the best way to go, Mizzou. Clemson at NC State. This could be entertaining.
Big game right there.
Yeah, Kansas at Duke.
No, that's the game of the week, folks.
There you go. Louisville at Florida State. North Carolina at Georgia Tech. Central Connecticut at Miami. New Hampshire at Pitt. So help me, if you lose that game, that's it. Liberty at Syracuse. Syracuse is, that's going to be ugly. The game you were just referring to, Wake Forest at Virginia, that is going to be telling. Richmond at Virginia Tech. You know, Richmond doesn't have much of a team, but, you know, those letdown weeks, who knows? And in the game, I think that's really going to be also telling is Wisconsin and Notre Dame. They're playing at Soldier Field in Chicago.
Oh, boy.
So there'll be plenty of people from both sides there at that game. And, of course, nationally televised and all that. And this could be the game that Notre Dame finally slips on the banana peel and says, whoopsie.
Oh, another team from, you know, somewhere near Chicago that doesn't have much of an offense.
Want more ACC sports news and interviews? Make ACCNation.net your homepage or follow us on Google News. Be sure to subscribe to ACC Nation on your favorite podcast or streaming radio platform. While you're there, we'd appreciate a rating and your support through PayPal. Follow us on social media at ACC Nation. And you'll find Will on Twitter at Will's World MN, and I'm at ACC The Q. Until next time, cheers.
Score.